Hey everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of the Best Seat in the House podcast. My name is Jonathan Christan, and I'm going to be your host for this new show. I just want to thank all of you guys for tuning in, checking us out, and just showing some love and support on this new project of mine. It really means a lot to me that you guys would just take time to do that for me. And so for today, we are going to be interviewing and talking to a really good friend of mine. This guy is an incredible drummer and an incredible person. Dude can literally drum circles around me in his sleep. It's ridiculous how good and talented this guy is. But even more importantly, he has a great heart and a good heart for people and a passion for what he does. And he's killing the game right now. He's got a lot of cool stuff that he's done in his short amount of time of living here in Nashville. He's played for a lot of cool artists like Carrie Joe, Cody Carnes, Natalie Grant, Danny Goki, Evan Kraft, Sarah Reeves, and a bunch of other awesome artists. He's currently one of the drummers at the Belonging Co., which is a church here in Nashville, Tennessee, and just found out literally today that he just got an opportunity and has accepted the drumming position for Jordan Feliz. So I'm really excited to have him on the podcast, and so hope you guys enjoy it, and here is my conversation with the one and only Kendall Smith. Well, Kendall, I'm glad to have you on the podcast.
John, excited to be here, man.
Yeah, it's been kind of crazy. It's December 2021, and we just had Christmas, and you were out of town, and I was playing here in town, and I thought that you were serious earlier. So Kendall texted, or he called me, and he's like, yo, are you at the studio? And I was like, yeah, or I'm like 2 minutes away. And he was like, what'd you say? You were like,
I was like, yo, bro, have you made it to the studio yet? I'm like, okay, yeah. You're like, I'm 2 minutes away. I'm like, okay, dang, I was hoping you weren't quite there yet. Yo, I'm sleepy, bro. I don't know if I'm going to be able to pull this off tonight. Maybe we can reschedule.
I was tripping. I was like, no, you're not. I knew he plays too much, so.
I'm one of them.
But I'm really glad to have you on the podcast, so.
Glad to be here, bro.
You were one of the first people I thought of when I was like, I'm finally going to do this thing. Like, I got to have Kendall on the podcast, and I texted you like a month ago. And we figured out a time to meet up, so worked out. But for those of you that don't know, Kendall's a drummer here in Nashville, good friend of mine. So for anyone that doesn't know who Kendall is, can you just tell us a little bit of your story, like why you came to Nashville, where you're from, and just all that good stuff?
Absolutely. Well, first off, thanks again for having me, man. What an honor to be here. I know this is probably one of the first ones you're going to release, and I feel honored that you even chose to use me, man.
Yeah, dude, for sure, man.
Thanks for considering me and all that goodness. But like he said, I'm Kendall. My full name is Kendall Smith. I'm originally from Peoria, Illinois, which is a central Illinois city about 2 hours southwest of Chicago.
Okay.
And was born and raised there. And now I'm here in Nashville. I mean, there's a lot of in-betweens, and we can get into all that if you want to.
Yeah. So what brought you to Nashville? Like, why'd you come?
Yeah, absolutely. So born and raised in Peoria, like I said, whole musical journey started there, and grew up, was on staff at a church and all that. And, Peoria is the type of town where you can hit a ceiling as far as what you can do musically.
Okay. Yeah.
And in my opinion, I was at the ceiling.
Gotcha.
And so I knew I needed to make some changes if I wanted to do music full time.
Yeah.
And I was recently married and everything, and my wife was super supportive and believed in me. And we had talked about Nashville. We had a few affirmations from the Lord that was pointing us to Nashville. That's a whole nother story. But we landed on Nashville, and I came here to be a full-time professional touring musician / session guy, hopefully too.
Yeah.
A few other things I'm wanting to get into, but man, we came here specifically for me to be able to get into the Christian music industry and potentially tour and do that style of ministry. I also do country too, so I've done a lot of country work downtown and little session stuff here and there with the country world here. But yeah, man, we came here specifically for me to try to hop in the industry, bro.
Man, that's awesome. So what was it like mean, because when I moved here, I was single. Like, I wasn't in a relationship, not married or anything, and I just moved here. So for you, you were recently married, right? Like a year or two into y'all's marriage?
No, bro, it was wild. We moved here within 6 months of being married,
I
dude.
thought it was longer.
Yeah.
Oh,
now,
shoot.
thankfully, me and Katie, we had known each other years prior, and we dated for a few years before we got married. So
Yeah.
we had a long relationship, but
Okay.
yeah, brand new marriage and just up and moved to Nashville.
Wow. Okay. So what was that? What was that like? Was it fairly easy, or like, because, you know, for some people that might be taking that next step in their career or whatever they're pursuing in life, some people are going to be single and some people are going to be like married.
Mm-hmm.
And so what were those conversations like, and what was that whole process like with like kind of convincing her? Was she like on board from the beginning? Or?
She was on board, so we kind of hit a wall in Peoria. We were both on staff at a church, and
Okay.
that season came to kind of an abrupt end on my side of the position.
Yeah.
So I kind of held two positions, and the music side of it came to like an abrupt close. And I just kind of felt like God was shutting the door to being in Peoria musically, because I still had another position on staff at church with cleaning stuff that I was doing too.
Okay.
And I just felt like that was that tug, that push from God to be like, yo, bro, it's time for you to get up out of here. It's too cushy. You're never going to leave if I don't shut that door. So abruptly shut. Me and Katie knew immediately, like, yo, we're not going to stay here. Like, this isn't going to be the setup for us. So it wasn't really a thing of like trying to convince her to move. We kind of just intuitively knew once all that happened. It was like, we're moving. We just don't know where to yet.
Yeah.
And so it definitely wasn't like necessarily an easy process coming from Peoria. Like I said, it's a small central Illinois city, so it's not a ton going on there. I mean, the big city to me, I would have to go to Chicago to do stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To like even get like a good cymbal, you know, I would have to go up to Chicago.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We had a Guitar Center, but it was pretty lame.
How far is it to Chicago from Peoria?
About 2.5.
Okay, because
Yeah.
even here in Nashville, like, I could hop on Facebook Marketplace or look on Craigslist and find like a sick piece of gear, and it's like 20 minutes away.
Exactly.
And even back in Texas, which is a big state, and there's a lot of major cities, like where I was from, I'd have to drive like 2 hours to get like a decent cymbal or find a good deal. Like,
Oh, yeah.
and here it's just like a huge difference. There's gear everywhere. There's so many opportunities everywhere compared to like the small city that we're both
Exactly.
from. So
And so most of the better listings were going to be in Chicagoland.
Yeah.
Which, like you said, that's like two hours up, you know, up there. And so there just wasn't a lot of opportunity there to do it on a professional level, like full time,
Yeah.
especially as a drummer. Now, if you're a keyboard player and you just want a cushy church gig, being the MD at a church, that's easy.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah.
a full-time drummer and trying to pay the bills and
especially
do-
like touring, like
Exactly.
I would assume the touring industry over there is not near what it is in Nashville.
Pretty limited. Although I did tour with a band out of Peoria for 7 years.
Oh yeah, so let's talk about that. It's Steady Flow, right?
Yeah, correct. So I recently just took a step down from Steady Flow
Yeah.
because some more doors are opening for me
Yeah.
here in Nashville. But yeah, man, Steady Flow is a funk jam band based out of Peoria, Illinois. And dude, I hopped in the band in 2014. No, I'm so sorry, 2015. And they kind of already just had some steam rolling in the city. Like they had a little tiny fan base from some kids in the suburbs, and you know they would do like little annual shows in town, and people
Yeah.
would show up, bro. Their drummer basically had to quit on them, had to do the real job thing,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
school and all that, and so that's how I ended up, you know, sliding in there.
Drumming's not a real job for those of you that are listening to this. That's
Unless you live in Nashville and you're ready to pay the price
Yep,
for
yep.
it to be a real job, you gotta pay the price.
Pay the price for any musician.
It's
I
not a
feel that.
game. And so, yeah, man. So I was with those guys for 7 years. They're all great friends of mine. It's literally, bro, like 2 days ago, I went and packed my drums up and, you know, said my goodbyes to them, you know.
Very recent.
Yeah, this was like 2 days ago,
And you've
bro.
been in Nashville for 2-3 years?
2 years.
2 years.
Yep.
So you were doing like distance. Like what was that like?
Oh,
Were you like
man.
when you would rehearse or have bus call? Would you have to drive back to Illinois and then like
It's
what was that
crazy,
like?
bro. So, first of all, no bus, van, trailer, bars.
Ooh, ooh.
Big night is if we played a music venue.
Okay, okay. I feel that. I've been there.
Yeah, man. Or a festival.
But the opening slot, like at like the first band on the festival when like no one's there type of thing. Okay.
Or if it's a real small festival, we the headliner.
Okay, there we go. Yeah, yeah.
You know how it is.
Yeah.
So yeah, bro. But what was the question again? I forgot where we were at. I know I was talking about Peoria and quitting the band.
What was it like when you moved? Like, because you were there in Illinois playing with them. Obviously, it's easier when you're in the same city. But when you moved to Nashville, you were there playing with them still for what, 2 years while you were living here, and like, would you have to commute a lot, or like, what was that like?
It was wild, dude. So I was the first person to move. I just knew I had to get out of Peoria. So I told the boys, I was like, yo, I'll still commit to this thing, as long as I don't have anything that obligates me, in a bigger way in Nashville.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, bro, I was driving back to Peoria. Bro, from the time I moved here, the first 6 months, I did not spend a full 7 days in Nashville because I was back and forth to Peoria, hopping in the van, going on tour with those guys. And if it wasn't a weekend I was out with them, I was going out with a random, country artist from Nashville.
Yeah.
So
what's the distance between Nashville and Peoria?
It depends on what part of Nashville you in. So I'll get really, really particular like that.
Really? I'm like,
yeah. I'm real detail oriented. Okay. So we lived in Bellevue when we first.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
When we first lived here, so it would be like 640.
Okay.
To Bellevue from Peoria, and from where I am now in Madison, it's only like 615.
Okay. It makes a
difference. Yeah. So it literally it depends on where you live in Nashville. So we'll just round. Yeah. And we'll say 6 hours and 30 minutes.
Yeah. Man, that must have sucked.
Yeah, it blew tail. It wasn't
like driving a lot and not really being able to be in the city as much as you would have probably liked to when you first moved here. Like, yeah, you were working and yeah, you were gigging, but man, dude, I hate driving. So
I'll be like kind of vulnerable and say, yeah, I felt like there were so many times I would come back home and be like, I don't know why I moved to Nashville just to be driving back to Peoria to do the same crap I was doing back there. Yep. And when I say crap, I don't mean the band was crap. No, just more the circumstance of why did I move 6.5 hours away to keep doing what I just moved away from. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was in a similar situation when I was down south in Corpus Christi, Texas, and I was playing with an artist named Zana, and she's like this Christian, like heavy metal singer, and she was doing her own thing. And so she was based out of San Antonio, and I was in Corpus Christi, which is south.
Oh, that's a move.
But like it's only 2 hours. It's nothing, really. But when I moved here, it was like a 17-hour drive, which was terrible. I hated it. But just going to prep for tour to do like 2 rehearsals with her, driving 2 hours, like that's nothing for most people. But like I hate driving so much that like I despised driving 2 hours just to go to rehearsal, just to go back home, to have another rehearsal a week later, and then go back home, and then go back for bus call to leave for tour. So like I could only imagine like 6.5 hour drive pretty much every weekend roughly for 2 years. Or at least multiple times a month for 2 years. Like you are one loyal person to like stick with those dudes.
Dude, that is one thing I will say. So there's 2 sides to that. Luckily, I actually enjoy driving. It's like, so I'm a hardcore like introvert. Yeah. I'm a 4 on the Enneagram scale. So I like totally need my time to be with me. Yeah. And in my head and my thoughts and me stuff.
I feel that.
And so long drives like that, I actually love. Okay. So it blows because it's just like, man, I'm spending a quarter of what I made on this bar gig in gas, and I'm putting this wear on my tires and oil changes and all this to keep doing what I just moved from, But the driving portion actually doesn't bother me.
Okay, you loved it. You thrived on those drives.
I love driving. Time. Yeah, bro. I could be in my head as much as I want with nobody to stop me.
Nah, bro. That's not me. No,
you said that ain't me.
No, I can't do that. Like, no. Okay, so you just finished or just left the band or moved on to the next part of your career. So I guess as far as like Nashville is concerned, what differences did you notice, I guess, like within the industry or within just the culture of music or musicians and people? What differences did you notice in Nashville versus like the music scene back in your hometown?
Professionalism.
Okay.
So back in Peoria, and I'll say I've grown a lot just in my personal thoughts and like how I carry myself as a professional musician. Yeah. I think back maybe in Peoria, I would be considered the guy that took it too serious. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Okay.
because I cared that much
That
about.
blows my mind because you play too much.
Dude, I play so much, but like when it comes to music, I don't play, bro.
Yeah.
Like
I feel that.
It's
That's
serious
good.
to
That's
me.
good.
And so, it would be one of those things where like people wouldn't learn their music or they wouldn't be progressing because they're not practicing. You know, they're not like investing in gear to like get better or like just have better tones and stuff like that. And it's not everybody, but most people didn't take their craft as serious as I did. So when I moved to Nashville, I actually felt like I was the middle of the road guy because I was trying to have like good equipment and practicing and making sure I'm up on my side of things.
Yeah.
You know, you move to a town like Nashville, everybody's got.
You feel like everyone's already there.
Yeah, for sure. And so now I'm trying to play catch up. I was the serious guy back home about it. And I always want to preface this because you never know who's going to hear this, and I don't want anybody to be offended. I'm not saying I was the only guy in Peoria that took drumming serious.
Yeah, for sure.
I have several friends that are killer players that are serious too. They may not be doing it full time right now, but they were serious too.
Yeah.
So kudos to all those guys. I'm not the only guy, but I'm one of the few from that town that was taking it serious. And so yeah, it to me it boils down to professionalism because dude, people up there they're not serious about it. It's like a hobby that you get decently good at. So it's like, oh, I do this thing because I know how to, but I'm not trying to like see the world or like tour the world doing it. Like I'm not taking it that serious.
Yeah.
Whereas you are, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, well, yeah, because I feel called to do this. This ain't even necessarily something that I like mustered up or just wanted to do. Don't get me wrong, I do want to do it.
Right.
But like I feel more called to do it than just like, oh, this is just something I want to do, so I'm going to pursue it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's, to me, the biggest thing, if I had to summarize it, it boils down to the level of professionalism a Nashville musician carries versus a person back home.
Yeah, and that's true. I mean, overall, not just with drumming, but just musicians being professional in every aspect of their craft and what they're doing, because the standard here in town is just so high compared to your hometown, my hometown, like where we're both from and where pretty much everyone comes from. Probably, I mean, there's a reason people move here to town. And I've also realized that no one is really from Nashville. Everyone that I've met has come from somewhere, from a different city, a different state. And there's just a different level of professionalism that is kind of sought after here in town. I mean, I've been told by tons of people here in Nashville, like, if you're going for a gig or you're going for an opportunity, the skill level is typically like the last thing that people are worried about, because the standard is this guy's a good player, this person is professional, this person is going to be prepared, and they look at other things like are they on time, are they a good hang, are they a good person to be around, can I rely on them, because they assume, as they rightfully should, all of these guys can play and they will learn the parts and they will learn the material. And if you show up and you're a great person and you're fun, but you don't learn your stuff and you're not professional about it, like you're not going to get those gigs because. And
that weeds out the boys from the men. I feel like the best way to describe Nashville, like if you don't live here and you're listening to this and you like are considering coming here, it's usually you were the man back home. Or at least one of the guys.
Yes, sir.
You were that dude.
Yep.
And then you moved to town. If you are a logical person that's rational, then you know coming into Nashville that you're not going to be the dude when you get here. You know, it's possible to work your way up the ranks and gain respect and clout and all that good stuff. But if you're irrational and you think you're just going to come here and be the guy, you know what I'm saying? You're going to find out. You're going to find out real quick, G.
Yep.
Real
You're
quick.
going to get embarrassed. Like, you're going to make yourself look like an idiot. Like, if you were the number one dog where you're from and you had chops like no other, and then you come to town, like, there's some other people that, like, the stuff that they play, you're just like, what? Like, how is that even possible? And you get humbled really quick. And I didn't even have that mindset when I moved here. And even when I moved here, I was like, I thought I was professional. I thought I had things like okay, like I wasn't, you know, over the top with, you know, having a big head or anything, but I felt okay with the gear that I had and the mindset and the professional mentality that I thought I had. And then seeing these other guys that were striving and hungry and like just their mindset, I was like, man, okay, I still got to bump it up, which I appreciated because that helps me take it to the next level with my career and who I am as a drummer and as a musician and as a person. So I love the spirit and the culture of like not necessarily competing with each other in a bad way, but competing with each other and like, I'm going to help you climb that ladder and be a better person yourself. And you're going to help me do the same thing.
You said something I want to touch on.
Okay.
Dude, one thing about Nashville, bro, man, I'm so glad you said this. In my experience, that word competitive, dude, I've experienced nothing but just straight open arms from people here.
Yeah.
Dude, I've never felt any level of competition from anybody I've ever worked with here. I mean, we're drummers. We're all self-analyzing and, sizing each other up
totally.
to an extent, but not because I'm in a competition with you.
Yeah, it's in a healthy way.
Yeah, it's just like, let me make sure I'm not a clown and I'm keeping up. You know what I'm saying? Not because I'm trying to be better than you or anything, or there's a competition. And so, dude, that's another thing for anybody that's listening that wants to come to town, man. I've had people put their neck out on the line for me that's known me for less than a year, more than people I've known my entire life.
Ooh.
Nashville is that kind of town too. So while you do have to have your stuff together, come with a humble, spirit and but know your stuff and do well, learn your music and be a good guy. People will help you here, bro.
And that's what I noticed. I visited for the first time. I visited once before I moved here. I visited in 2019. I came for like a spring break thing. And I immediately noticed like so many people were willing to meet up with me and hang out with me, drummers, non-drummers. And I had always had this mentality that like Nashville, which it is a big city, it's music city for a reason, and there's musicians everywhere, and it's the touring capital of the world. But I always had this mindset that it was going to be very cutthroat. Like everyone is here for the same goals, ambitions, aspirations. Everyone's trying to, be a session guy or being a touring guy, right? Like those are the two main things. And so I always thought being in Nashville, people are just going to like pull the chair out from under you to get to the top and to climb over you. And people are going to do whatever they can because it's a cutthroat type of atmosphere and culture. So that way they can get to where they want to be in their career, and they will, go over anyone that they need to get to that point. And I learned very quickly just by visiting for 5 days, that's not the case. And everyone I met with was like, dude, you're such a good drummer, you're such a good person. You have to do whatever you can to get to town. And I was like, what? Like, I was not expecting that at all. I thought people were going to just like, nah, dude, like, this is my city. I want this gigs. Like, and I was very pleasantly surprised. And even when I moved here, I was kind of expecting like, okay, maybe I just got lucky and met a few good, cool people. And they maybe even then they weren't very genuine and they didn't mean it. And I moved to town, and person after person after person after person that I met, it's the same. Everyone was building me up. Everyone was like, dude, if I can't make a gig, I'm going to refer you like over and over and over again. And it's still to this day really surprises me just how genuine and real the community is here.
Dude, it's so real, bro. I've had to re-examine myself. I've never been like a super close-handed person when it comes to like drums and music and stuff. But back in Peoria, because there was such little like opportunities, there were only so many big, nice churches, so many bands that were doing something, so many bars you could play at or whatever. Everybody was kind of bite, kick, scratching for a gig type of thing, and you got to hold on to it. You know what I'm saying? That's just kind of the culture there.
Yeah.
And, dude, so much to the point where when I got to Nashville, dude, I had to kind of almost, like, repent, bro. Like, yo, like, I was unconsciously somewhat selfish.
Really?
You know what I'm saying? About holding on to things too tight. You know what I'm saying? And, like, since being in Nashville, seeing how people have been so open-handed with me, which has helped me get to some of the places I've gotten to in town because of people's open hands towards me. And I'm like, yo, I need to replicate that and be that to other people because that's how I'm able to do some of the things I'm getting to do because people are taking a chance on me and not being so close-handed, and I need to do the same for others. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, I like how you talked about earlier moving to town and people within like under a year of really knowing you, going out on a limb to recommend you or being open-handed and just like really just supporting you when it comes to like gigs and opportunities and things. So I want to talk about the most recent shift in your career that I literally just found out about today when you texted me. And I was like, when we met up, 3 months ago for the very first time in person,
man.
and we got coffee, and you had told me about this possible thing that might be happening. You're like, it may not happen, it may happen, just kind of keep it on the DL. I was like freaking out because I even like kind of guessed because I was like, there's only one person it could be. And you told me about a possible opportunity to play with somebody. And then you texted me today like, yo, like this is for sure like this happening. And so just kind of walk everyone through like who it is, the story, and like where you're at right now and the foreseeable future, kind of what it may look like.
Absolutely, man. So it pretty much just starts like Jonathan just said, where we just left off from people being open-handed. So this I feel like these type of things only happen in Nashville, bro. I'm gonna just say
that's
it,
true.
man.
Yeah. Small
Dude,
world. Like,
I have a friend from church that has been touring full time as the MD and drummer for a Christian artist by the name of Jordan Feliz.
yep.
And he got an opportunity that's going to pull him off of that gig, but he's like kind of pioneered that thing. Like not only the drummer, but the MD.
Yeah.
He like puts his shows together basically.
All the arrangements,
All that.
rehearsals,
Him and Marcus
tracks.
do all
Yeah.
that. And so he's just like, man, I'm kind of getting called into another thing right now. Who do I trust to fill these shoes?
Yeah.
I don't want to just get somebody who I know who can play the parts
Yep.
just as good as I can. It's who can I trust, who has the right heart, who's going to be able to play it well, and who's going to be like moldable and approachable that will be willing to learn
Yep.
on the gig and
Yep.
be, tested and stretched and all that. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
for sure,
And so
for sure.
he told me, he was like, bro, you're the only person that came to my mind. He's like, I know a million other people that can play the gig just as good as you or me or better.
Yeah.
But God laid you on my heart. And this person I'm speaking of, his name's Neiman Davis. And he and I, for real, y'all, have only known each other for just about a year.
And even then, y'all weren't like super tight. Y'all
No.
would just be in passing at
We're
church.
in passing at our church. We just happened to play at the same church, and he kind of took me under his wing the first few times he saw me play. He's like, yo, bro, you got something special. Let's grab coffee. I want to know who you are. I want to pour into you, blah, blah, blah. Granted, this dude's super busy. He's touring all over the place, so it wasn't super consistent, but anytime he was at church, he would check in or he'd shoot me a text even from the road. Hey, man, thinking about you today. Hope you're doing well, man. Call me. Let's catch up.
That's awesome.
A guy I've hardly know, bro, just pouring into me, praying for me, asking like, hey, how is your relationship with your wife? Is there anything I can be praying for y'all? You know what I'm saying? Dude, how's things going at church? How are you doing? Are you working? What's going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like legitimately checking on me and being a big bro.
And in the span of a year, a lot of people in Nashville like are good about something like that with maybe a month, 2, 3 months,
And it goes away.
And then it's nothing.
It goes away, dude.
But over that span of a year, consistently, maybe there was gaps, but like throughout that year, consistently, you know,
man.
checking in and stuff.
And so he's gonna come off the road with Jordan in the early part of 2022. And so he's going to pass the throne down to me for the foreseeable future. I've met with Jordan's team, his management, and all that. And so it's all official. We're just going to be working on tour dates and rehearsals and me learning the arrangements and all that good stuff. So, yeah, man. Like you said, just a little over 2 years in town and, the doors are opening up, but it's not from nothing of my doing, bro.
Yeah.
It's been from people taking that chance on me and being open-handed.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That's literally the only reason how this is even possible.
Yeah. And I think another part of it too is favor that a lot of us have as Christians and as what we believe in.
Yeah.
Is just that favor. Like there's tons of other people in that church that are incredible drummers and would kill that gig and just be such a good fit. But there was a reason why he saw you and chose you. And so I thought that was so freaking dope because like just 2 months ago we were talking about it and I was like freaking out for you. I was like, that would be incredible. And then also just the timing of, because you didn't know about this at all when you had already kind of had that conversation with your wife about like, I think it's time that I step away from the whole Steady Flow gig because from what I remember, you told me, you're like, yeah, even before I knew about this Jordan Feliz thing, like me and my wife were just talking, and I was like, I think at the beginning of 2022, it's just that chapter of my life is closed. I don't know what's coming up. I don't have any gigs. I don't have anything lined up. I'm kind of freaking out right now, but I know that it's going to be fine. And then this opportunity
God opens
comes
that door,
and it's just like you had no idea. And that's where that faith comes in, you know, that faith that brought us to Nashville in the first place without having a full-time gig already offered to us.
Yeah, man.
That's crazy. So I just want to touch on another part of that where I guess a lot of people have had this maybe during COVID, especially musicians, and just that period when you decided I'm leaving Steady Flow, I don't know what's next, you know, between deciding you're leaving that band, not knowing you are going to be offered the drumming gig with Jordan. How do you handle like slow seasons with, you know, maybe you have a 2-month gap and no gig or no tour or nothing booked, no sessions? Like, what do you do? Do you freak out? Do you kind of keep your cool? Do you just rehearse a ton? Like, what is it like for you?
So I'm not going to sit up here and cap, bro. Like I said, I'm a 4. I freak out, bro. I over freak out. But, you know, I go back and forth, man. I'm up and down with it. So when it gets slow, man, you know, not even trying to like be like over spiritualizing it, but dude, I pray more. I pray more like, God, this season's slow right now. But maybe there's something you can be showing me, because in the business, I wouldn't be listening. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And using this opportunity also to maybe start sharpening some skills, maybe start learning a little bit more of Ableton tricks, or tinker with the keys a little bit more because I have time. You know, maybe work on writing a little bit. You know, maybe work on just being a better human, like going to Planet Fitness and working out, or doing some yard work, or, you know what I mean? Something, it ain't always got to be about the music, but it's little things at a time. But yeah, when it gets slow, bro, like I said, I get weird, you know, because I'm just like, yo, what's going on here? Do I need to be hanging it up? I'm 30. You know what I'm saying?
My time is done.
You know?
Yeah.
You know, and I think people are capping if you say you never feel that way.
Everyone feels that way at some point in their life, yeah.
But I also always come back to, man, God, you've never let me down. You've never failed me, period.
Yes,
it's just like one of them things, like, you know, you have to have, you know, down seasons like that to reflect, to be grateful for when things are moving. And when things are good and when it's all up, you know. At least for me personally, I know I pay more attention. I'm more in tune with my emotions and what I'm feeling when I've had a season from being down. It's like, yo, I haven't forgot what it's like to be sitting at the crib. You know what I'm saying? Waiting for that next call, praying for that next call, you know? And
so I feel like that holds a different weight for you than it does for me. You being married, and essentially being a leader of that household, there's a different weight that holds. Like, man, like financially, this month's going to look way different than last month, and maybe the next 2 months it's going to be slow. So like I don't know, for me, I would be freaking out. Like,
yeah, it definitely holds this weight, man. I mean, I'm so blessed that my wife is such a supportive wife, bro. She just loves on me. She's patient with me, you know, and she believes in me, man. And so when it gets like this, bro, we just hunker down and just maybe I don't get to go to Forts as much this month, you know, or like maybe, you know, maybe not eat out as much, you know.
Forts is like a shop, like a boutique, guys, like fashion shop here in town. They got some sick stuff, so.
I got a little shopping problem.
He does. He does.
It's kind of real bad. Remember when we hung out, bro? We were just trying to get tacos. I was like, yo, there's a thrift store, G. Would you be cool if we stopped real quick?
So when we hung out, it was supposed to be, I assumed, it wasn't supposed to be anything, but I assumed it was going to be a typical Nashville 45-minute to 1 hour hangout, you know? We get coffee. I end up helping this man move furniture, go into a thrift store to pick up furniture, delivering it to this man's house. I've never been to this man's. I met this man
30 minutes ago.
I'm in his house, and we're lifting this big, heavy desk credenza thing, and I'm like helping him. I'm like interior designer. Like, does it go in this living room or does it go in this den? Like, and then we go eat, and then you're like, yo, dog, like, I saw this thrift store down the street. I'd never been there before. Like, do you mind if we check out? I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then we went in there. It was trash.
It was super lame.
It was trash. You scan the entire building and you're like, nah, I'm not about it. And you called it. And then we went to Nelson's Drum Shop, which is a spot in town for vintage drums and incredible drum gear. Shout out to the guys at Nelson. And what I thought was going to be a 45-minute hour hangout ended up being like 6 hours. And then and it would have been longer, but he had to go rehearse for an upcoming gig. And he's like, yo, dude, I got to be back home like by this certain amount of time because I got to rehearse some stuff.
Before Katie gets home from work.
Yeah, before the wife gets home. And that's another thing that we touched on. You saying she's so supportive. I cannot stress like how important it is. I'm not married, but I am in a relationship. And I've had my fair share of relationships as well in the past, but like it takes a very specific type of person to date a musician and marry a musician, and then a specific type of person to date and marry a drummer, because we're not musicians. We're in a completely different ballpark. We're just weird.
It's a thing, dude.
Yeah. When it comes to that kind of lifestyle, when it comes to possibly, inconsistent financial situations because of gigs, slowing down, and then touring, being on the road, being constantly away, that's something that I feel like you need to have a ride or die, like a legitimate ride or die woman in your life that is strong enough to go through those things with you and be very supportive, because it's not always going to be easy. It's difficult a lot of the times.
It's vital. It literally doesn't work if you don't have that.
Yeah.
On both ends.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to be able to be okay with being away and being faithful and checking in and being a support to your other person back home.
Yeah.
And they have to be okay with being there for you and being okay with being, alone for little chunks of time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah, dude, it's critical. Like, you got to have that together, or I'm telling you, it don't work.
Yep. Shifting gears here, we're going to switch it up and kind of do this little segment that I want to kind of introduce for the very first episode. I don't know if I'm going to keep doing it, but I call this Name That Drummer. And this is for Kendall, and we have the video here on this podcast, but if you're listening, essentially what we're going to be doing is there's a screen here in the room, and we are going to display a drum kit and drum gear on the screen, and that's the wrong one.
I was going to say the
but it's all good. We'll figure it out. I'll ask you if you would have gotten that one.
And I'll be honest too.
We'll display, and then I'll have Kendall look in case that happens again. But this one's good. So we have a drum set on the screen, and it's basically just a screenshot that I took of a drummer's gear. And so Kendall is looking at it right now. And for the video, I'll post it on the side. And for audio, it's a Franklin drum kit, Franklin Drum Company, and it's like this black confetti galaxy looking kit. And I want to see if Kendall can guess whose drum kit this is.
Okay. So I've seen this kit in person, and that's the only reason how I know, because all the pieces are not in this picture right now.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right.
So it's Neiman Davis, and I know it because he's the only person I know with a Franklin drum set that did the inside of his drums black too.
Really?
Yeah. So like, looking at Portho, that kick is black, and inside of all those
it's
toms,
not just the exposed wood.
No.
I would have never guessed that. Mm-hmm. Wow.
He did the finish on the inside too. I don't think the sparkles are in the inside.
Just the...
But the matte black vibe.
Okay. Well, let's see if he got it right. What is the drummer? He got it, Neiman Davis. And that's his kit. And like you said, it's not the full kit. He has, another floor tom and another rack tom,
correct.
I think. And so I was actually gonna roast you so hard if you got this one
missed
wrong,
it,
because you literally...
Well, dude, honestly, I'm gonna be real. I would have missed it if that Portho wasn't black,
because the other pieces aren't there as well.
And also this drum set looks different in person than it looks in this picture. In this picture, it looks a little more glossy than it is in person.
Really?
It's more matte in person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, on to the next photo. Now, what we're looking at for the audio listeners is a rehearsal room, and there is a WFL drum kit. It's like a champagne sparkle, I think. I don't think it's gold. I think it's a champagne sparkle, along with a WFL snare as well. And this one might be a little bit more difficult because it doesn't show what brand of cymbals this dude is playing. Do you have any idea who that could belong to?
Dude,
There's a few WFL guys
I
here
know,
in town.
and I got a few homies that play the threes. I think that's Peyton. And I'm gonna tell you why. I haven't watched his setup enough to like know for sure because there's one off to the far right. There's another. Is that a ride or a crash? Do you know?
I think it's a crash.
Yeah, but I feel like I know he likes that aluminum snare,
Yep.
and I feel like I've seen a few things with him with that champagne sparkle. The only other guess I'm gonna say two people, but I think it's Peyton. The only other person I think it could be would be our homie Rains Walls.
Okay.
He plays for
Yeah.
Sidewalk Prophets.
So the first photo was Neiman Davis, who is currently in the transition with Jordan Feliz, which is the gig you're taking. This one, he's guessing Peyton Hilliard, who is drumming mainly for Leland, but a bunch of other people as well. Or Rains Wall, like you said, is drummer for Sidewalk Prophets. All right, so let's see who it is. Peyton Hilliard.
Tight,
you got it, bro. You got it. You were on the money. Yeah, that. I tried to pick some people that I really thought you would know, and you may or may not be able to see it in the photo, but some of these literally it says I can drum 91 likes.
But dude, I'm a supporter on the gram, so I be liking people's stuff I don't even know, bro. I'm pretty sure I was liking your stuff before we even ever met, bro.
Man, that's hilarious. So if you would have been liking all these photos and then like you would have gotten them all wrong, that would have, man. All right, well next. This one, did you see it earlier? Did you see the name earlier?
I did, and I will say...
If you didn't see the name, if it didn't pop up. So what we're looking at now is...
I know my bro.
It's an over-the-top camera angle, and it's looking down, you know, like if you were standing on a drum throne and facing your phone camera down, like upside down. So there's a snare, a rack tom, kick, and then a hi-hat and a crash, and then a part of a floor tom. And then that crash is an Istanbul Agop. Is that Mel Lewis ride with the rivets in it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so, which that already kind of gives it away. I chose a photo from like 2014. I scrolled way back on the gram. So this was kind of going to be a trick. So if you wouldn't have seen the name like pop up earlier, would you have gotten it?
I'm going to be honest. I think I may have, because I remember seeing some old videos with that Ludwig kit.
Yeah.
What would have thrown me off if I wouldn't have known that it was from way back, because he plays different hats now, most of the time live anyway.
What does he play?
He plays those Exist Dry.
Okay.
I think they're like 17.
17s?
Yeah.
These are like, I think these are the Cindy Blackman Ohm, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, just by looking at the top. But yeah, we can see who the drummer is revealed, and it's the one and only.
That's bro.
It's Austin
Davis.
So
if there was like a grilled drummer for me, like my hero is Austin Davis.
The Austin Davis, pioneering the way for all of us to be able to make money playing drums in the worship department.
Right. Yeah, I could have possibly missed it though, especially with that side snare.
Yeah,
it's just not his thing right now.
Yeah, he doesn't. He hasn't been using. There's one at church.
At church there is,
but I guess that's more just so people can, if they want. But I don't see him using it in his, at least within the past maybe 2 years. Really, hasn't been using it a lot. Well, I'm gonna give that to you because I really think you would have gotten the Istanbul, like a got Mel Lewis. You would have noticed, and I think you would have taken a guess and ended up getting it. So. Everyone clap.
Yeah, I'm just happy I got him right. So one thing about me, I'm not good at games. I usually lose, and I usually get salty about it.
I can see that. Man,
you can see that.
I could see that happening. All right. Well, now let's just talk about your rig rundown, or what you play now, or what you play mainly, what you're into right now, what you're playing these days.
Cool, man. Well, it really depends on what I'm doing. I have like 3 different drum sets right now, and like a few different sets of cymbals. So it depends, because you got to understand, I was playing funk jam band.
Yeah.
I'm doing Christian contemporary music at church. I've also come from a gospel background, so that's like church too, but different.
Yep, way different.
Country music, you know what I'm saying? So I would use different things for different situations.
Okay.
So I guess I want to know specifically, what do you want?
What are you playing like now? Since you've moved to Nashville, okay, for the Jordan Feliz gig, what do you think you're gonna be using, or are you gonna get a new kit? Are you like?
I'm gonna end up getting a new kit. We're working on some stuff right now, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
But I have right now, what I'll probably use with him will be 10, 12, 14, 16, 22, hopefully by 14, maybe 16.
Yeah.
I'll do a main snare, a side snare, SPD,
Okay.
probably 2 splashes, a stack, a ride, 2 crashes off to the left and a crash off to the right, and maybe a effect symbol like an ozone or something.
Yeah.
And it may not be that much. That's a whole lot.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
he's pop too.
But that gig
You know.
calls for that kind of setup. If you were going in and playing on Broadway or something, or you were playing, I mean, even with someone like Carrie Job, like that's a lot. That's a lot for her type of stuff because she's like worship, you know.
Yeah.
Even at the Belonging when you've played and stuff, like the kit there doesn't have all of that.
We still got a lot for
Yeah,
a
y'all
regular
do.
church
Y'all
kid.
do. But it just kind of adds a little bit of flair. It's not necessary, but I think for the Jordan gig, a lot of that stuff that you would have is going to be necessary, which is why
Yeah.
Neiman was running the 5-piece.
It's technically a 6-piece.
Technically, right?
Yeah. I forgot too. I'm gonna throw a clap stack in too.
You have to.
Mm-hmm.
I just played with one for the first time on Christmas Eve services
What'd you
last
think?
week. I loved it.
Dude, it's so cool.
I loved it. I couldn't run a SPDSX because we had a percussionist at the church I was playing at, and they do more of a mobile setup and teardown type thing. And they rented like a festival type stage, and they only had a certain number of inputs. And since they were adding in a percussionist with extra,
There goes
they
your
needed
SPD.
So I was like, I don't need the SPDSX. I guess whatever, we can just run more of the percussion stuff, throw it back in the tracks. But then I was like, there's this Istanbul got like clap stack, and like I know a lot of people are using it, and I've played some at like drum shops, but I've never implemented one into my set, and the church had one, and I was like, I'm throw it in there. I mean, I don't have the SPDSX because I can't use it, so I ended up setting it up right to the left of my hi-hat. And man, dude, that changed the game for me. It sounded so good. It was so fun, and I had to hold back a lot because I wanted to do a lot of little accent stuff that would have been just way too much. But like, I definitely I loved it. It was so fun.
Dude, it's definitely a vibe. It's definitely an innovative piece.
Okay, so you play Istanbul Gop or?
So right now I am playing Istanbul. There's talks of potentially maybe switching over to Heartbeat.
Okay, I've
But
actually
so
been
here's the
contemplating the
thing.
same thing. We're gonna talk about that off.
I'm
camera.
not endorsed with anybody.
Yeah.
As we speak right now.
Yeah.
So, but right now,
Any
what
company seeing this? I'm just saying.
what I have in my personal stash right now is all Istanbul,
Okay.
and that's gotten me through everything I've needed it to get me through.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
But I also have a bunch of Dream stuff too.
Yeah.
That's what I was using when I was out with Steady.
Which is what I play. I love Dream.
Oh,
stuff.
you play Dream? Yeah, Dream's
Yeah,
great.
yeah. I love Dream stuff. Mainly because they're really affordable.
And they sound
They
amazing.
sound really great. But I was playing Istanbul Gop stuff before I moved here when I was in Texas, and I just kept cracking cymbals like along the lathe, like
Really?
not on the edge of the cymbal, but like parallel to the lathe. It was
That's
so
crazy.
weird. I cracked 3 cymbals that way.
There was a few at church that got cracked that way.
Okay, maybe I just need to give
it's
them
not
another
just
shot.
you.
I don't know.
I've had mine for over a year, and dude, you see me play. I don't play soft.
You play hard.
It's kind of a little ridiculous how hard I play.
Yeah.
And I haven't had any issues.
Okay.
So
I might need to check it out again.
and the ones that were broke at church, I did not break them. They were broken.
Who broke them?
I'm not gonna say his name or their names.
You're not gonna call him out like that.
Nah,
I
bro.
appreciate that. I appreciate that.
Because it's all speculation too. Because
Okay.
I show up and stuff is broke.
I feel that. I respect that. Okay, so next quick question. We've got about 5-10 minutes left, but before we end, what is your dream gig or a few dream gigs? If you could have, if someone called you up right now, you're like, dude, I will, yes, like I've always wanted this.
So I've got 3 things. I don't necessarily have specific artists, and I know that's probably what you're looking for.
Okay.
I've just always known that I've always wanted to do a world tour.
Okay.
Like, I don't want to just do lower 48. Like,
Yeah.
I want to go to Europe. I want to go to Africa, Australia, Asia, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
You get me?
Yeah.
And I don't want it to be just specifically in one genre. Like,
Okay.
I'm really, really hoping that I can do really well in the Christian industry.
Yeah.
And even keep climbing the ladder there and get to work with, people that are, Jordan's level or bigger, or
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't matter, but definitely the Christian industry. What I'm getting ready to walk into with Jordan is definitely, that's been the dream.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to be able to do that also in the country world music too, because
Really?
yeah, dude,
Okay.
a lot of people like give country kind of crap. It's kind of
What kind of country? Like,
So I'm into the stuff that most people don't like. It's that more pop country. The stuff that's
like
going to have a
Nashville
bunch of
country.
tracks. It's going to have a bunch of tracks.
yeah,
It's going to
yeah.
be having like some pop swag on it. It's like radio stuff, not the older stuff.
you got like
know,
a fancy like Applebee's
stuff like that.
on-
Yeah.
yeah.
Stuff that maybe not that song. But the type of people that would come to that type of show.
Okay, I got you.
All arenas, dude. Arenas. I don't know what it is about arenas. That's when I fell in love with music, and that's when I knew I wanted to do music for a living the rest of my
Yeah.
life. I want to be with artists that are charting, and that are doing like arena tours,
Yeah.
man. I mean, I'm fine with doing like festivals and obviously like theaters and stuff. Every night's not
Yeah.
an arena night. That's just not even feasible.
No, for
There's only
sure.
so many
Yeah.
markets in the country that even supports arenas.
Yeah.
So I realize that's not like a reality for anybody all the time.
Yeah.
But just the type of artist that is like headlining arenas,
Mm-hmm.
So I've hoped to do that in Christian, country, and then pop world.
Ooh, okay.
I really love that LA pop thing
Yep.
they do.
Yep.
It's super cool, man. There are 3 different worlds. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I mean, that's more out in LA. But I'm
Mm-hmm.
hoping, maybe you never know what God has in the cards, like to maybe have a residency in LA too.
Yeah,
where
I know
like,
some guys here in town that
that
are
bounce
playing-
back and forth, yeah.
it's definitely possible for
Mhm.
sure.
Or hip hop, dude. I wouldn't mind getting intertwined with that Atlanta scene and doing a hip hop gig. That's my
That would
original
be-
roots.
That'd be
you
fun.
know.
That'd
And
be
so-
really fun.
Yeah, man. I would say those are my dreams. I'm not a super specific artist person.
Yeah.
It's just the quality of what you're doing and your message,
Yeah.
because everybody has a shelf life.
That's true. I
So-
get that. Well, I hope it happens. You'll definitely get some arena stuff with Jordan, for sure.
Hope so,
For
man.
sure. Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, I guess ending off the podcast, I will ask you this for all of our listeners out there, because this is our first episode and we don't have any questions from listeners because no one has any idea that this is happening right now. Maybe in the future we'll have questions. But this is my question to you, and to end this out, what do you want to say to any aspiring drummers or musicians that are wanting to pursue this full time? I guess from our aspect of, we are touring guys and that's what we want to do in the music industry. So aside from session work or anything else, like specifically when it comes to touring, traveling, what do you want to say, I guess, to encourage those people, or maybe give some tips or pointers from things that you've learned? What do you want to say to those people?
Yeah, man. Dude, to me, the name of the game, everybody has their own timeline, but it's patience, bro.
Yeah.
You got to be diligent and like being like faithful in the season you're in. So you don't necessarily got to be a church drummer. Let's say if you're doing bar gigs, or you're in jazz band at school, or
Yep.
or you are a church guy, or your homie's got a band in a garage. Just being faithful in that season and like seeing that through and committing to it like it is the dream gig. Because the reality is, man, I mean, some people just get lucky, meet the right people, and things happen really quickly.
Yeah.
But the majority of people, that does not happen. And so you gotta have patience. And to me, while you're in that season of waiting, you just need to be diligent in making sure you're practicing.
Yes, sir.
And investing in yourself. Like, when I say investing in yourself, making sure that you're like, keeping up with gear. Like, you know, save up money and get good gear.
Yeah.
You know, people aren't going to hire you if you got crap.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going to let you go out with bull crap.
Yeah.
You know? And they're not going to pay for your stuff either.
Oh, because you're also aesthetically, like, you're representing the artist or the band.
Correct.
And if you have trash gear, people may not hear the difference because they're not drummers, but they'll see. That looks like garbage.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, it's got to look good. It's got to sound good. You know what I'm saying? It's got to be you. But yeah, man, those are my two big ones. Let me think. To me, one big thing I learned is, dude, this world is big and small. So, like I said, while you're being loyal and diligent in all the different seasons you're in, how you treat people matters. And, like, what type of, like, you know, energy you leave with people, you just never know how that's going to turn out in the future. Like, who you may end up working with or who may connect you with the person that gets you to where you're actually trying to go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That may not been somebody you felt like would benefit you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Or you may not like this person, but you still treat them with respect, or, you know, it's just one of them things where you just got to make sure you're always being a good human no matter what, because word gets around and people will find out who you are, you know, and the truth always will come out in due time, you know. So I just think it's super important to make sure you're treating people well and being, you know, a solid person.
Well, that's great advice. I second all of that because I've experienced all of that and then other things as well. And it goes a long way. So, but that's about all the time that we have for today. And dude, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast. And
thanks for having me, man.
Dude,
I know this is your first one.
It is.
I'm super honored to be here. Really appreciate you for choosing. It's an honor, man. Choosing to use me for your first one. So thanks again.
Hopefully we can keep these running and then cycle you back and hopefully have you on another episode. And by then you're playing with Jordan and have more experiences and things to share by then. And yeah, so
absolutely would love that.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for tuning in, for checking out the podcast. I'll link down Kendall's Instagram, which is
it's IKendrum91. So IKendrum91.
Okay. Yeah, that's his Instagram. I'll link it down below as well. And then also for To The Moon Creative for hosting us and letting us use their space. I don't know their Instagram at the moment. I can pull it up on my phone, or I'll also just put it on the video screen. Oh, okay. It is just TTM, so like To The Moon, so TTM Creative. That's their handle on Instagram. So go follow them, check them out. If you're in the Nashville area or the surrounding cities, look them up, come check them out. They have solid stuff. They do audio and video. And based off my first impression here, recording, definitely a good spot to go. So thank you all for tuning in, and hopefully we'll catch you guys in the next episode.